Hi, I'm Callie from CRK Training, and I'm really excited for today's interview. So we just finished up a 3-day clinic at my place with these two instructors. This is Tim Jobe and Gabby Riviette of Natural Lifemanship, and who was a friend of mine that kind of organized the clinic here. And I didn't know much about what you did, but I knew that you did equine assisted psychotherapy. So I was looking forward to seeing what I could get out of it for my riding clients, but I didn't expect to get so much for my training. So Tim, I know you've been working with horses and training for 40 years and working for 25 years with people in this field.
Yeah.
And Gabby, I know that you're a licensed master social worker. So maybe if we could start, if you guys want to talk a little bit about what you do and what got you to this point.
Sure.
Of course. Natural Lifemanship is a program that of equine assisted psychotherapy where we teach people how to use horses in therapy and in any kind of relationship to figure out how to have more connected, attuned relationships where the relationship is good for both parties, not just one. One of the things we believe is that a relationship has to be good for both, or it's not good for either one. So we go all over the country training horse professionals and therapists and school systems and corporations and parents, anybody that wants to incorporate better relationships into their daily lives. Gabby is the therapist in most of this training. We have several therapists that help do the trainings. We have several different horse people. And it evolved from my work with horses where I figured out that if I really want to have a good relationship with horses, then I have to quit controlling my horses and help them figure out how to appropriately control themselves. It's a hard thing to do because to do that I have to appropriately control myself. Once I do that, then my horses have the capability of doing that themselves. It's a long process to go through to figure that out. But that's where the work in the therapy comes from. It's where the work in the relationship comes from. So that's what we teach.
And Natural Lifemanship is trauma focused. It's not specifically for only people who have experienced trauma, but it is the basis of the model where the relationship is the vehicle for change. So it's all about healthy relationships, and there is a big science component to it as well, in affecting changes in the brain. And you were going to say something.
I was just going to say we work very hard to help people understand what happens in the brain when trauma occurs. And by fixing those areas of the brain that get kind of dysregulated and dysfunctional, it helps them deal better with the trauma and to heal from that. And the relationship is where that healing is going to occur.
And the science is one of the things that I really appreciated. I think both in horse training, and I don't have much experience in therapy with people, but I know at least in horse training, there's a lot of talk of connection and relationships and things sometimes that don't, it's to use your word, like magical. You know, people use that word, and I love science. So this weekend, hearing how you incorporate the science and the evidence into what you're doing was really powerful for me.
Yeah. The science of it helps us replicate it.
Yes.
Magic is not something, well, for one thing, I'm not a magician. And if it was magic, I'd never be able to do it. But the science behind what makes it work is what makes it possible for us to teach other people how to do it. It may seem magical when you have a really good relationship, but it's not. It's hard work.
Yes.
And understanding what hard work is going to go into it is what will make it seem magical when you get there.
Right.
Yeah.
With the success that can come out of this work, it can certainly feel magical, but it absolutely is hard work, and there's a scientific base to it. So,
Yeah. Now, there's 3 main things that I kind of took away from my time with both of you this weekend that I wanted to share. And they were, we'll go over each of them with a little more specific, but it was the language of control, the power of relationships, and then the principles of building relationships with people and horses. So I love the way you talked about control. Could you share a little more about that?
Yeah, control's a dirty word unless you're using it on yourself.
yeah.
And then it's a beautiful word. Trying to control other people, other situations, just produces stress for everybody involved. When you control yourself and allow them to appropriately control themselves, then there's very little stress. But things that happen in our lives make that seem unsafe to us sometimes. Some beliefs we have from our experiences, especially with the horse. It's really hard for people to believe that they don't have to control a horse, that horse is perfectly capable of controlling himself and being in the kind of relationship with you where you both can go do anything you want to do, but still both of you can stay safe, you can stay connected, you can stay attuned, and stay in control of yourself without having to try to control the other one. Takes some work to get there, and takes some real understanding, but it also takes this belief that it's even possible. If you can't believe that that's even possible, it's going to be really hard to get there.
Now, with the relationships, what is really the power of relationship that has made that such a focus in your model?
Well, I think that in a lot of, most work with horses, the relationship may not be a focus, unfortunately. And particularly in most models of equine-assisted psychotherapy, the relationship isn't a focus. The horse is sometimes can be used as a metaphor. The horse is used as anything but a relationship, a living, breathing being with their own thoughts. And so the relationship with the horse in this model, the most important piece of that is that the client can build a relationship with the horse that helps them build relationships with people in their lives. And the patterns that they have in their relationships with people are going to show up in their relationship with their horse, no matter what horse they work with.
And most trauma happens to people in the context of a relationship. It's relationship that causes that trauma, and it has to be relationship that heals that trauma. So we believe that all healing comes from the relationship, but it has to be the right kind of relationship before it can be a healing relationship. So relationship to us is the most important thing we can focus on, even with the horse. Just focusing on what I want the horse to do and doing whatever I have to do to get that is disregarding the relationship with that horse. Now, I can be as kind about that as I want to be, but it's still my agenda. It's still the horse having to do what I want the horse to do, instead of the two of us going and doing what we want to do. And like any relationship, if it's built right, and if it's communicated appropriately, and it's a safe, attuned connection, then we can go do pretty much anything, and we can do it safely, and we can do it better because it's about the relationship instead of about the task. And that's one of the real principles that we operate out of. Even when I'm working with a horse, it's figuring out how to build that relationship where the horse wants to be with me, wants to do what I want to do, but not just what I want to do, but also it becomes what he wants to do. And when it becomes what he wants to do, he's going to be a whole lot better at it. There's going to be less pressure on him. He's going to be calmer about it. I'm going to be calmer about it. It's going to be a lot better experience for both of us.
So what would you say are the main principles of relationships?
I think the main principles are if it's not good for both of us, it's eventually not good for either one of us. That there always has to be the opportunity, and it has to be safe, to ignore a request, to resist a request, because only then can it be safe to cooperate with a request. If ignoring is unsafe or resisting is unsafe, if I make that unsafe for my horse, then he really doesn't have much of a choice to cooperate. And to do that, he usually has to engage his neocortex, which is not a part of the horse's brain that is engaged in any of their other relationships. He only gets to engage that neocortex in relationship with me. And it's a different relationship than he's ever going to have anywhere else. He's never going to get to experience that relationship in his herd, because he's either dominant or he's dominated. And when that's what's played out in his human relationships, he's not going to have any better connection with the human than he does the horses in his herd, where he's either being dominated or he's dominating. So neither of those are good for a relationship. I want my horse to figure out how to have a relationship where that's not one of the factors that goes into it. So that we can have the kind of relationship where we're working together instead of forcing our will on each other.
And the other thing would be, I'm in control of myself and you're in control of yourself. We're not trying to control one another.
Yeah. I don't want my horse making his decisions ever out of those survival parts of his brain. And anytime I take away his choice to resist or his choice to ignore, then really the only place he can make those decisions is in the survival part of his brain. I want him to have to engage his neocortex to figure out how to be in a relationship with me. And it's like our traumatized kids, that part of their brain is not well developed because of the trauma they've been through. Horse's brain develops that way naturally. So we have to help them overcome the way their brain is developed the same way we have to do a traumatized kid, so that they can start making relationship decisions, me thinking versus we thinking. I want them to do we thinking, not me thinking. Me thinking comes from that survival part of the brain. We thinking comes from that limbic system and that neocortex, and that's what I want engaged when I'm working with my horse.
Yeah. You're good. Well, I think, as I mentioned at the beginning of the interview, I've taken so much away from this weekend, so I thank you for that. And
thank you for hosting.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for bringing us to Pennsylvania. It's a lovely place.
well, thank you. It was a pleasure.
It was for us too.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, I'd like to thank you for the interview, and thank you for watching. And also, perhaps if you could leave a comment with one thing that you are currently doing with your horse that you feel is helping to create a better relationship, however small that is, or wherever you feel that. I would love to see the comments, and
That's wonderful.
thanks.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.